Hello and welcome back to Daring and Doing. I'm Will Hester and I'm joined by the brilliant Ben Bowman. How you doing, mate?
I'm very good, mate. I'm very good.
Got a week
Very
off
good
work?
after yesterday. Week off work. Just bathing in the glory of that Mickey van der Ven goal yesterday for the entire week. I think I can dine out on that until Newcastle on Saturday. Some fucking boy. He's a player.
It was unbelievable.
That goal was just like, you know how everybody's been moaning about like Spurs not shooting from the edge of the box? Centre back just picks it up. Fucking wallop. Have some of that.
It was the
I just love him.
It was the noise in the stadium. He just thundercunted it. Oh shit, my mum's gonna be watching this. He just
swearing.
He twatted it into the top corner. The noise he made when he smacked it, when he left his foot, and then the sort of like click of it smashing the roof of the net, and the goalie didn't move. It was unbelievable.
Mate, the celebration as well was unreal. Just like he wheeled away like he was chasing a fucking defender. Like that quick. Like, get out of the way.
Yeah,
just, like, I'm having my moment. Like, he deserves that.
And
but you know what? My main takeaway from yesterday, I think 6 p.m. Sunday kickoffs are actually all right. I think they're the way forward. If you've got a good 3:30 game, I know they don't always kick off at 3:30 these days, but if they kick a good 3:30 game on the telly, like Man United against Liverpool, like we watched in the pub yesterday first, then go to the ground. 6 o'clock in like April, lovely sunset at Tottenham, just like when it's still light and then it gets dark and it's like, oh, I'll go for a few drinks afterwards. Got work tomorrow, but well, I don't, but fuck it off. Like, it's just great. Like, I just, yesterday was just a nice day, like a really nice day.
Sun was shining.
You went to the game as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so it was the first game where we're going to be getting an analysis of both of us, where we were both at the game. So, like, actually, to be fair, I kind of like the balance of you were at the game, I wasn't. So, like, I watched it from a different perspective, you watched it from a different perspective. But, we both have different takeaways in a way. We like, I guess when you're at the game, you're so absorbed in the atmosphere and stuff that you sort of miss little things.
That's very true.
But or that you can't really focus on too many things either. But when you're watching on TV, you can. But it was amazing. I've missed the match day experience so much. Like I genuinely like, but it was so funny.
Yesterday as well.
It was a little bit. It went stale after the equaliser, just like our performance. I think a lot of everyone was stunned, even the Spurs players. But there was a guy next to me. He was an old guy, and he was making me laugh so much. It was irritating at first because I was like, "Shut up!" But actually, after a while, I was like laughing my head off because he was like he was about 90 years old. Bless him, yeah. And he was constantly moaning. He was moaning before the thing had even happened. Like he was like, but he was shouting in lowercase as well. And he kept saying right at the beginning, he kept looking at Vicario and being like, "Why is he out of his goal there?" He was going, "What is he doing at the halfway?" And then when Murillo hit that ball over the thing, it went silent. Everyone thought it was in. It nearly gave the poor bastard a heart attack. Generally, he was literally, and then the rest of the game, he was shouting at Vicario like he had a proper grudge at him. I was laughing my head off. But it was amazing. It was so good to be back in the stadium. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, class.
What were your thoughts on the actual performance? Because I think, do you know what? In comparison to the other games this season or recent games, if we're comparing it to the last couple months, I think we started quite well. I think the way we started was really good. I think James Madison started well, and I think he lost his influence as the game went on. But I think he started well. I think we come out quite strong. Obviously, we've got that goal, and then we were stunned with a quick goal from Nottingham Forest. Quick in the sense that come out of nowhere almost. It was just an underlap run from Malanga, cut across and a goal from Chris Wood. And I think the whole the whole stadium was stunned into almost silence, and the players' heads dropped, and you could see that it completely dismantled their sort of flow and mojo that we come out at the beginning with, and until the second half, obviously those changes from Ange Postecoglou, that's when we saw a proper Tottenham performance. What are your takes on that?
I agree. Yeah, I thought it was interesting because the last couple of games we've sort of bucked the trend of conceding first and then coming back in these games. I thought it was the best we'd started in a long time yesterday against Forest. I thought it was sharp, zippy, like Madison floating around, lots of nice touches on the ball. Basuma I thought was really good in the first 15 minutes, just driving us forward. Lovely little interchange with Sonny for the goal. Basuma had as well. That's a quality little touch around the corner. or around the corner of the defender, should I say, and then into Son to open it up.
Yeah.
We just looked dominant from the start, and that's why, like you said, it was such a surprise that we let our foot off the gas and let that go. And I think that's why there was such a big shock reaction to that, and it was almost like, not here we go again, but it's just like, how have we done this to ourselves? Like, Forest weren't in the game at all, weren't laying a glove on Tottenham. Like, we were finding it quite easy to pull them apart. I thought, not necessarily in terms of creating loads of chances, but just in terms of our players being able to affect the game and move around and hurt them. And then we got the deserved goal. And yeah, that's why it was just so frustrating to then go in at 1-1, because it did go very flat after the equaliser. Then they had another chance that Vicario saved from Yates, and then Chris Wood. I forgot about that. I watched Match of the Day this morning. I just forgot about that Chris Wood chance where he just smacked it against the post from about a yard out. I just could not believe he did it. So bizarre, because his chance conversion rate is up there with like one of the best in the league, and I thought he actually took the goal pretty well, like as a snapshot. Like, it was ugly from a Spurs point of view. Like, I don't know, we are susceptible to kind of giving those goals away on the transition, which is frustrating. But it just was a case of, like, I don't think a doggy tracked Elanga. Like you said, he went past him. Van der Ven wasn't going to be able to, kind of make up the gap. So a doggy had to track, and he just didn't do it. And now that's why the underlapping run sort of caught us. Romero slides in to try and make the block. He's sort of unlucky, takes some of the pace off the cross, but then it falls to Wood and just gets there before Porro. And it was a good finish, but a really frustrating goal to kind of give away again. Just feels avoidable and preventable. Especially in as well of like what was again a pretty solid defensive performance. Like, these goals are not coming as a result of bad defending a lot of the time from Spurs. It's just like mistakes, really. But got into half time and made the changes. Once again vindicated. Once again, like a bit like Kulusevski against Luton. Like, I didn't think Basuma was having a game to the point where you think, right, get him off.
No.
Like, get him off. I wasn't thinking that. I thought Sarr was pretty poor. Like, Sarr's performances have gone off the boil a little bit in the last few games, but he's young. Like, that inconsistency is to be expected. He's been brilliant all season for us. And also, you've got the options to be able to change it up. So it's not really an issue if Sarr, for example, starts playing poorly. Because you've got Bentancur who come on, and he was silky yesterday. I thought Bentancur was looking back to his near his best. And Højbjerg has completely changed the game for us, in my opinion. But yeah, first half was almost Tottenham kind of flipped upside down, really. Like, started strong and then ended the first half weak.
Yeah.
Whereas it's usually the other way around going into half time. But yeah, a good start. A good start, but we sort of undid all the hard work that we put in.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't think Nottingham Forest were bad either. I think Nottingham Forest gave it a go, and the goal was, from a Nottingham Forest fan's point of view, was actually quite a nicely well-worked team goal, but it just was quite soft and easy, and that's why it sort of stunned the crowd, I think, because we were totally dominant. And then it was just like, oh, fuck, we've just conceded like another one of those goals. It's just, and it wasn't a counter-attack either. It was just like intricate passing, and then bang, goal. And I think on another day, either Romero blocks the cross or Porro blocks the shot. It goes through Romero and Porro's legs, the cross and the shot. And I was trying to pick apart that goal when I was watching it back, and I was just thinking, there's not much. I think we just got to be stronger. I don't know. It's you can't really pinpoint. A doggy loses out to Elanga through just pure pace. Elanga rapid. So It wasn't like he did stop, but it wasn't like he could have done too much. I think it was just. I think we just didn't really commit in challenges leading up to it, and then all of a sudden we were put in a really vulnerable position, and Forest capitalised. But apart from that, and obviously the Chris Wood, that phase between that equaliser and half time was really piss poor. But apart from that phase, what was it, like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, if that. I thought it was actually a really, really solid performance, and we thoroughly deserved the victory. But the catalysts in the game were the halftime changes, I think. Ange brought on Højbjerg for Basuma and Bentancur for Sarr. I think they just added that composure, that composure, that's not silkiness in midfield, but that just bit of competence on the ball, a bit more, keep a bit safer on the ball. I think Basuma and Sarr, they sort of epitomised their drop off after that equaliser sort of epitomised the whole team. Like they were just a bit erratic on the ball straight after that equaliser. They were a bit sloppy. But I thought, to be fair, I thought the whole team were. So I'm not like singling out those two. But I thought Bentancur and Højbjerg, they just added that little bit of composure. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And I think what you said about Basuma and Sarr kind of sums up how important they actually are to us, that it can have that much of an impact on the whole team. There was something about that midfield that after the first 20 minutes just wasn't working. I thought Basuma, like I said at the start, was driving forward, nice interplay for the goal. Sarr, like, I don't know what it was with Sarr yesterday. I can't really put my finger on it. But I think the whole team and the whole attack just started to look a little bit one-dimensional. And I've not said that many times this season because I think it's so often a word that gets thrown around way too easily. People see it as like, oh, it's not functioning, it's one-dimensional. Spurs have only got one way of playing, blah, 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 blah. But there's been too much of that chat. But yesterday, there was a bit of that. There was a little bit of that. And it was starting to get a bit frustrating. But again, like you said, people have questioned Ange's in-game management and lack of substitutions, all this kind of stuff throughout the season. In the last 2 home games, he's made changes that have directly impacted the game pretty much instantly. Like Johnson last week against Luton, Højbjerg this week, and Bentancur, of course. You could tell with Højbjerg, like there is something about him where this way you have to give testament to his character, because he's been placed in a difficult position where he was, over the last few years, like he's been an important player for Spurs, regardless of what anybody thinks of him. Like he's had poor performances, but he has been important at times for this club. So he must be in a very difficult position where he's obviously not favoured by the manager in terms of what he thinks is best for the system, but the fact that he has often come on so many times and kind of steered the ship in that midfield for us and added that little bit of composure, which is kind of the antithesis of like what we expect from Højbjerg. Sometimes it's way too erratic. And don't get me wrong, we saw part of that in this game. It was a very typical Højbjerg performance for Spurs. So much good, but then it was like almost very nearly undone all of it with some sloppy passes around the box. And I think when he's got pressure on him, that's when you see him panic a little bit. Whereas actually, that's when you've got the best out of Basuma. I think in possession, when Højbjerg's got time, he's actually a lot more purposeful than Basuma. I think Basuma can often slow the game down and it can become pedestrian pace. Whereas Højbjerg, I think, is a lot more snappy with his passing and decision-making. And I think that's what got Spurs in the game yesterday. You could tell from the first few minutes, as soon as he had that shot that got tipped over the bar, which from where I was sitting, I couldn't tell if that was actually going in. It looked like
it was, mate. You were ridiculous. It looked like nonchalant the way he did it. It was unreal effort.
At first, when he hit it, I thought, oh, he's just trying to float one into the box there. And it was like, oh, it's just travelling. And it was a good save. But you could tell like he wanted to make an impact. And that's where you've got to give him a lot of credit, Højbjerg. Like he's not sulked. No, not throwing his toys out the pram. Every time he's come on for Spurs this season, he's done a very professional job and a very impactful job, to the point where now you're looking at it for Newcastle on Saturday, where that midfield battle with Guimaraes is going to be so important. You're looking at it thinking, do you start him? And especially with the North London derby in a couple of weeks as well, maybe that is what we need in that midfield. Like, again, I don't think Højbjerg will be a part of Ange's long-term future. I don't think he'll be at Spurs next season, which is a shame, really, because I think for his own career as much as anything, because you couldn't find really many better options to come on off the bench and do that, what he did yesterday. He just knitted everything together. And then Bentancur, and you add to that his ability to drive forward with the ball in possession, his decision-making, the little deft header. I'm not sure he meant to find Porro, but I'm going to say that he did anyway. Like, for the third goal, like, he's just, I think we're starting to see Bentancur get back to somewhere near his best, which is great. Again, like, the composure in his own penalty area when Højbjerg put us into a suicidal position, and Bentancur's ability just to pick it up and dribble out like that was just brilliant. It's very hard to get the ball off, but they massively changed the game. And I think now you're looking at it, like you said, like kind of alluded to, for Saturday with Newcastle. Like now you've got another almost a little bit of a selection headache. But with the quality and depth that we do have in that midfield, it's proven to be a good problem rather than a bad one.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, Højbjerg. It's true what you said. He almost did undo everything in those last 10 minutes because he started becoming almost the Højbjerg that people expect him to be. But he is just that. He is that sort of level-headed character. Comes in and it does a job, isn't he? A bit of a steady Eddie for the most part. He has got a bit of a mistake in his locker, but so is Basuma. They both got mistakes in their locker. So he is much better at cutting out transitions and being in the right place. I think he edges Basuma in that regard. It's just like you're saying, on the ball, on the edge of the box. When the ball comes to Højbjerg, it's squeaky bum time. Like everyone is expecting is expecting something to go wrong. Where Basuma will like wriggle out of a tricky situation. That's what Højbjerg hasn't. I haven't seen Højbjerg do that since that Zidane-esque roulette in the Europa League, or whenever he did that under Mourinho. That double roulette. But I did.
2021 Højbjerg under Mourinho. We cannot replace him.
Yeah, we cannot replace him. He was. Yeah, that was when everyone knew he was one of our most important players. So it's funny to see that sort of like transition now, where he's a squad player. He almost plays with almost a bit of a point to prove, which I like about him. And like you're saying, it's a testament to his character, because a lot of people could throw their toys out the pram. He's spoken outwards saying, I'm not happy with the way I'm playing, but he doesn't play like that. He doesn't play like he knows he's going to leave in the summer. Obviously, he's changed his agents, and it's looking like he's going to head out the door, but he is a very key asset to us at the moment because of performances like yesterday, the way he come on and he just changed the sort of control we had over Nottingham Forest. And I was really pleased with him. And it's a conundrum going into Newcastle. We'll probably talk about that a bit more on the preview of that game, but it's a conundrum now because we're looking at that Newcastle game, like you're saying with Gamiris, and you're thinking, Højbjerg is that physical, and for transitions, he will cut those transitions out like he was doing yesterday. It is a bit of an issue there of who do you play. But Bentancur, it was amazing seeing Bentancur sort of. You can see he's getting there. You're still not expecting that for a while. The levels he was achieving under Conte before his ACL injury, the levels it were a joke, like borderline world class, and people weren't really realizing it. And like from other clubs, he is a joke. So when he gets to that level under Ange, it's a massive problem for every other club that faces us, because he will be a cheat code in that number 8 position. I think Postecoglou's figured out that he's probably not a number 6, especially at the moment where he's still doesn't really trust his body. He's an excellent number 8, and I think people thought that when Postecoglou come in, when they were looking at that sort of box-to-box midfielder, they were thinking Bentancur is perfect for this, and he's sort of been transitioning from a 6 to an 8 when he has featured. But I think he's starting to hold that number 8 down as his position, and yesterday was just it's showing everyone that what he's capable of and the levels he can achieve, and even if he keeps that performance up, you've got such a player, but you know he can get better as well. There's parts of the game, like there was a moment where he got in the box and he sort of wriggled past a couple of players in their box, and you're thinking, well, that's Bentancur of old before that injury. He's trusting his body a bit more to sort of get through those where he has to use his agility, get through those tricky sort of dribbling chances, and uses sort of, you can see he's starting to trust his knees a bit more, which is just it's good to see, and it just shows that he's coming back. He is, and when he comes back, we are going to be a quality side that not many people will be able to beat that midfield and midfield battle, because we're talking about a borderline world class player in Bentancur, and you're slowly seeing it come back. Do you think we will see those levels again?
100%. I think. I agree. I think pre-season under Ange, a full pre-season where he can hopefully stay fit. I think start of next season, that's when you're going to see it. That's when you're going to see him get to those Conte levels, but also potentially eclipse them. Because I think if he can eclipse them, we've got a hell of a player. Like, he is just, like you said, maybe he's not best suited to the 6 in this system, but he can be a 6. That's why he plays for Uruguay.
Yeah,
he plays as kind of that more deeper midfielder, but that does have the license to get forward. I remember in the World Cup, do you remember that game they played against Portugal? I think where he picked the ball up on the halfway line.
Yeah, dribbled through the whole team.
And he nearly scored. It was like, he's got that ability to play deep but progress the ball. Like you said yesterday, there was a couple of moments where he drove into the box where that's exactly what we were seeing last year, and also when he sort of first came back, that confidence to just pick the ball up. He's a bit like, I don't know, this might be a weird comparison, but his gait and the way he runs reminds me quite a lot of Nico Kranjčar, and he was always quite hard to get the ball off because he keeps the ball quite nonchalant, like you said, keeps the ball on a string, like quite. keeps it very close in his feet, and it's very hard to get him off. He's quite physical, quite strong, he's quite tall, so he can just brush people off without that sort of more natural physicality like Basuma has got. I think in certain games, I think he can play as a 6, but I think he does need Basuma there as well. And I like we talked about it after the West Ham game. I did like that midfield balance. I think, especially in games where Spurs are going to dominate the ball a lot more. I think to have someone like that who can help unlock the door as well, which definitely worked in the second half. I said it before the game. I thought Forest were going to be easier to unlock than West Ham, even though they would sit and make it deep. We knew there was going to be a threat on the counter-attack. They scored more goals on the counter-attack than any other team in the Premier League. And although the one against us wasn't necessarily a counter-attack, it still came from that sort of transitional play a little bit. So there is work to be done in that position. But I think Bentancur is this number 8 in this team. I love Pat Matasar. But again, it's great to have the options. It's really good to have those options. And both of them have shown they can pop up in the box with a goal as well.
Yeah.
So there can even be games potentially where if Madison's not quite on it, and I'm sure we'll come on to talk about Madison as well, because it was a game that sort of, again, divided opinion a little bit. You could potentially play Bentancur and Sarr together with Basuma sort of screening, and there's maybe bigger games where you need to beef up the midfield a little bit, because both of them are creative. Bentancur has got such an intelligent football brain. He's not the number 10, but he can do that. I think he can do that.
Yeah.
But I was really pleased with him yesterday. He's one of those players where, because of what he's gone through and because of how good he has been, you just love seeing him out there. Like, you absolutely love it. Like, and we all love Pat Matasar. He's like our little, he's like the younger brother of the team who you really want to see play. Just because we've seen those levels from Sarr, that doesn't mean he has to play every game, and we can just protect him a little bit and rest him in certain games. Struggling a little bit at the moment. But Bentancur in the last few games has really shown that class that he does have a few hairy moments at times, like against West Ham, but it's a joy seeing him back on the football pitch. I fucking love him.
Yeah. When he got clattered by Morgan Gibbs-White, did you have your heart in your mouth?
Because I was up.
Yeah. He got it back as well. Did the Brian Yates. He's such a bellend. He's such a bellend.
By the way,
but he clattered him back. Yeah.
And he got away without a booking as well. It was the perfect thing with Bentancur. Gibbs-White got booked by clattering Bentancur. Bentancur 5 minutes later does the same thing to him. No yellow card. Lovely. Cheers, ref.
I know. I was right behind both of the challenges as well, and they were pretty parallel. They were both. It was almost like Bentancur was like, "Fuck off," like doing that. I've got ankle problems, or like, And then Morgan Gibbs-White come off early, and you're just thinking, yes, Bentancur, like, he wound up their best player.
He is that guy. I think, especially with the big games that we've got coming up as well, like we've seen the performances that he can put in against the likes of Arsenal and that before Man City. Like I think he's going to have a big run in the end of the season, Bentancur. I think if you can keep him fit, I think he'll have an impact on these big games. I really do.
Yeah, I like what you're saying about like how we can shore up games with maybe Bentancur, Sarr, and Basuma, and that number 6 if we get number 6 in the summer. Like
Højbjerg as well,
and Højbjerg, yeah, because you're thinking that if Bentancur did go in that Madison position to shore up a game for the last 20 minutes, there wouldn't even be that much of a change of the balance because he's such a versatile player. And like you're saying, he's got that football brain to understand the roles that he'll have to sort of take on. And he's just such an amazing asset to have in this squad. And to think Conte last year had all those players. Okay, obviously not Madison. He had Højbjerg. He had Basuma, Bentancur, and Sarr. And it was Skip and Højbjerg. I know Bentancur was injured, but it's mad to think we had this midfield. We've had this midfield for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And now we've suddenly got this problem of...
Takes the right guy to unlock it.
Exactly.
Just takes the right guy.
Exactly.
We've got no fucking guy.
And imagine for Bentancur right now, he plays for Bielsa and Postecoglou. He must be loving life as a footballer. That's like the most freeing couple of managers to be like, just play football. This is how we're going to play. We're going to go play to score like 5 goals. It's
interesting you say that, actually. Yeah, for sure. It's interesting you say that, actually, because I was talking about the pre-season and why that's going to be big for Bentancur to really get up to the levels of Postecoglou's system. We know that it requires immense fitness, but so does Bielsa. Obviously, everyone talks about murder ball. But obviously, it's the Copa America this summer. And Uruguay will probably, with the team, Uruguay have got a good team, man. Like like everything sort of fell apart for them a bit at the World Cup when Bentancur got injured. So they've got a good side and they could go deep in that, which it's a balance between like you want him at Spurs as much as possible, but maybe actually playing in that tournament in the summer, getting up to that sharpness under two managers in Postecoglou and Bielsa that are gonna put him through the paces, like so to speak. Maybe I'm not sure. I don't know how you feel about that. Is that a good thing, or do we want him all to ourselves, like for the summer?
Well, there's going to be a tactical resemblance with. I know he plays in a little bit of a deeper role, like for Uruguay than he probably will play for Postecoglou. But it's not a huge contrast in the way they both play. In the fact that he's not going to be sitting in low blocks and like he was under Conte. The role he's going to have is going to be there's similarities for Postecoglou's system. But you do
different styles with similar principles.
But so and obviously there's gonna be differences, but it's not a massive like contrast. But you do want to wrap them up in cotton wool and be like, have a bit of rest, come back, get that pre-season under you, and I don't know. It just all depends on how many times, because the Copa America is so frustrating when you're looking at Romero playing because they play overnight. And then you see in the morning, Romero's done his ankle or something like that, or Romero got injured in this, and you're just like, oh my God, we haven't even started the season yet, and you just get so worried. So if it starts happening like that, or like Bentancur came off early with a bit of a knock, you're going to be like, that's not good. But if he plays and you're seeing him get back to his best, and then he's pumped up for the season, it could be a massive plus for us. So I don't know, it's a bit of a tricky one. I'm a bit torn with that. But another player that had an unbelievable game was Mickey van der Ven. He was phenomenal. And
Mickey van der Ven.
Mickey van der Ven. And I mean, the performance levels he was showing were a joke. There was a moment as well where Morgan Gibbs-White hit one on the first time volley down the line, and everyone was thinking, like, I can't remember, was it Hudson-Odoi that was like running to try and get it?
Unreal.
And you're looking at it thinking, oh, what a pass, they're in here. He comes out of nowhere, he's like Superman. Just comes up, gets the ball, and all of a sudden Vicario's on it, and you're just like, it's like having a superhero at the back, just clearing everything up, every bit of problem, like he'll save the day. Even when Højbjerg puts in trouble at the end, he just laid down. And the attacker, I can't remember who it was, just couldn't get a shot away because Van der Ven's 6'5" frame was on the floor. You're just like, how do you score past that? So he's a joke. And Jamie Redknapp sort of alluded on Sky Sports that Van der Ven could reach or surpass the levels Van Dijk's getting at, and he was saying that Van Dijk at 22 wasn't at this level, and for it to be in a debut season in the Premier League. How good can Van der Ven become? What is his ceiling?
I don't think there is a ceiling. I really don't. When you're looking at this level of performance, like Jamie Redknapp, not a lot of what he says makes sense, but it did yesterday. I think he's right. Like, it might be a bit far to say that he can get to Van Dijk levels, because Van Dijk, I think, is probably widely accepted as I certainly think he's probably the best centre-back we've seen in the Premier League. The levels that he's shown in terms of his consistency. They're also different styles of players, but if you're talking about pure potential, the sky is the limit for Van der Ven. Like, it honestly is. Like, that goal was just the icing on the cake of what was actually a brilliant, like you sort of alluded to it. Like, that's going to grab the headlines. But again, it was another defensive masterclass from him. He was our best player on Tuesday, and he was our best player again yesterday. Like, the way he's able to progress the ball out from the back as well. Like, him and Romero are such a good partnership. They really are. Romero, the aggressor. I think Romero won all of his headed duels yesterday, and then Van der Ven didn't get dribble past once. They're just such a perfect balance of each other. Romero, the aggressor, and Van der Ven, just that calming sort of presence at the back. Even though actually they sort of take on each other's roles a little bit. Van der Ven can be that aggressor, and I think one of the things that goes underrated with Van der Ven is when people talk about his pace, everyone just thinks, well, he just uses that as a get-out-of-jail card. But actually, his reading of the game is exceptional. He's not as much that sort of front-footed defender as Romero is, that likes to get on the striker's back straight away. And how many times have we seen Romero step up to the halfway line and either win the header, which I talked about this on TikTok this morning. I actually think Romero's aerial ability has improved significantly as well. He seems to win a lot of those headers. But the classic Romero thing is to get the foot round the front of the striker and nick it back and then Spurs are away. Van der Ven was doing that a lot yesterday as well. I thought, like, Van der Ven's reading of the game, I think, is exceptionally underrated. But his reading of the game is also to acknowledge the fact that he can use his pace. He's a very intelligent defender. And you mentioned about the superhero. We've got our new super Jan, haven't we? Like he feels very similar to Vertonghen. Like it's just the left-footed thing. Loves to stride out in the back. Just similar, like nice guys, just good guys. Like you'd love to see them both doing well.
He moves a bit like him as well.
He does. They've got a similar sort of gait. Like Van der Ven is like obviously a bigger frame, and sometimes it looks a little bit clunky, but it works. Vertonghen sort of float. We were talking about this on the Fighting Cock on Saturday, actually. Like me and Flav were saying, like Vertonghen used to glide. Van der Ven doesn't really do that. But when he's running at you, you're thinking, how am I going to stop him?
Yeah.
Like, there's another chance where he ran forward and the touch was a bit heavy on the edge of the box, but he got it back. And it's just like he does anything, like you said about the chance where he blocked it for, I can't remember, just lays down on the floor. He finds a way. I love that about defenders that just love defending. He's just great. Really, really great. That goal was just an absolute screamer. Like, if the keeper gets anywhere near that, that's breaking his hand. It needs to net off. It was like we've been waiting for one of those goals. And again, like Vertonghen used to score, maybe not goals like that, but he always liked to shot from the edge of the box. There's something just like very similar about them two. And you can tell how much he loves playing for Tottenham at such a young age. I don't think we've seen many young centre-backs come to the league and have the level of impact that he's had. He's been exceptional. His record in the team, he's lost one game for Spurs where he's completed the full 90 minutes. And that was against Wolves at home, where we didn't have Porro and a doggy. And we conceded a sloppy goal from transition and a stupid set piece, which again, don't reflect necessarily on the centre-backs, or certainly don't reflect on Van der Ven. Obviously, the set-piece thing does, but in terms of open play defending, like these guys, Romero and Van der Ven rarely put a foot wrong for Spurs. It's such a good partnership. And again, I think Romero's performance went a little bit under the radar yesterday because Van der Ven continues to grab the headlines. And how can you not with a goal like that? It's just superb. Love him. You can see it in his face. Saw it after the game how buzzing he was. Like the whole stadium singing his chant as well. Like, just moments like this have been so special this season. We keep having moments like it where you just think something is happening in it, like something special is happening. What that looks like, we don't know. But Van der Ven is going to be a big part of it. Like Redknapp's right, his ceiling. There's no ceiling to a play like that. Like Saliba, like Van Dijk, they ain't got ceilings, and Van der Ven is in that bracket for me. Like he is just a monster, an absolute monster.
Yeah, sky's the limit. And to think that we didn't even have much competition signing him. Like, no one was really going in for him, but his heart was like set on Spurs. Like he was rumoured with other clubs, and he sort of addressed that at a time. But you could tell his heart was set on Spurs, and I mean, it's a perfect move for Spurs, and it's a perfect move for him, because if he was coming into a team in the Premier League that played in a low block, you wouldn't see his strongest like facets to his game, and actually he would look a little bit vulnerable, I think, in a low block. But you're seeing the best out of him because we're playing the perfect, ideal system for Mickey Van der Ven. And he's box office in this system because he can just obliterate people with his pace and power. And that's why he probably does get seen a bit more than Romero, because he's so box office in the role he's deployed in. And he is incredible. Such an amazing character to have as well in the team. Everyone loves him. The players love him. He's 22 years old, and his performance levels are this. What can he is already, but he's gonna be an absolute monster. He is a genetic freak. He's a joke, and you're thinking in 5 years' time, he's gonna be 27, reaching his peak. How good is he gonna be? It's gonna be a joke, and I'm bricking it for if England play the Netherlands in the Euros. That defence is a joke. Imagine a high line with Van Dijk and Van der Ven. Although I don't even know if they're going to play Van der Ven, but they should. Imagine that. Van Dijk and Van der Ven. How are you getting past them in a high line? That's ridiculous. And also it's his ball playing ability, his ability to progress up the pitch with the ball. He's a scary, scary prospect. And if we make more signings like him in the summer, players that are on the precipice of greatness but aren't in the headlines, and we sign them through data analysis or however, we're onto something. If we keep buying gems like that, we're onto a team that no one could beat, because that is such an amazing signing, and it fills me with so much confidence that we will keep making those type of signings, because no one really knew of him, did they? It is incredible.
Everyone wanted Tapsoba. Everybody wanted Tapsoba. Like everyone looked at Van der Ven as the quote unquote cheaper option, just like they did with Vicario. It's like
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Van der Ven is just an absolute gem, absolute gem. Liverpool, there were rumours with Liverpool when we were linked with him, and I was going to say, like, could you imagine, like you said it there, like for the Netherlands, but could you imagine for Liverpool, Van Dijk and Van der Ven together?
But
Like,
how much would they be talking
that's
about him if he was playing for Liverpool in a title race?
Exactly.
How much would they be like sucking Liverpool off over having Van der Ven? And, yeah, exactly. They would be like, oh, he is on the same level as Van Dijk. They'd be saying shit like that. But because he's playing for Spurs at the moment, and where we are, obviously we're just trailing behind him. We'll get into that later on. They're not going to talk about it. But the fact he's getting the praise already is a sign of what's to come with him, I think, because people are going to be starting to talk about him in the same bracket as the Salibas, the Van Dijks. He is just a joke. But you reminded me as well, by the way, of taking shots on the edge of the box. Spurs were doing that this game, which we haven't really seen. We were talking about it in the last pod. We were shooting, and it was effective because that we varied it up against Forest, and they didn't really know whether to commit to a block the shot and move out of position or to hold steady, because I think Basuma had a couple which went wide and over the bar. Højbjerg obviously tested Sells in goal with one right after half time, and Van der Ven just like absolutely thumping one into the top corner. And I want to see more of that for Spurs because it was effective. I know it's such a simple thing, but it really did. It looked like it shook Forest a little bit as well. They didn't expect us to do it, and it was amazing. But Van der Ven, fair play to him. He's only going to get better, and we've got a monster on our hands, honestly. Another player. Let's go on to the other goal scorer there. Porro got his first Premier League goal of the season. What's your thoughts on his game? Because you didn't think he was that great, did you? Because I think I was masked by... I thought he had an amazing game, but I think I was masked by, one, his goal, because it was a great goal, and two, his roulette he did in like the 80th minute. He did a little skill when everyone went mental. And obviously when you're at the game, those things are the ones you like, that's the stuff you remember. And I was moved by that. So, but you didn't think he had the best of games, did you?
No, but to focus on the positives, like the finish was outrageous. Like that's such a good finish. He is such a good player. Like technically, we've seen the goals that he scored for Tottenham. The one against Burnley in the cup, the few last season, the one at Leeds away, the one at Southampton away. He's finished like striking across the ball like that. He's superb. Like he's really got that sort of technique nailed down to a T. Such a clever finish to keep on top of the bounce as well and keep it down. Those are quite difficult. You see so many people just blaze them over, but he is such a weapon for Spurs if we can get him in those sort of dangerous positions. It's interesting. Someone tweeted out this morning that goal was remarkably similar to the. Do you remember the Aurier one in the Champions League?
Yeah. I was in the same sort of seat. Yeah, right behind it.
Yeah, was you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was in the South Stand for that game, and Aurier coming right out. He was like fucking. It was like Mourinho's first home game, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, that ball boy.
It was a very similar goal to that. Yeah. Like someone, I think it was Delhi, maybe. No. Someone flicked it on at the near post. It was a remarkably similar goal.
Oh no, it wasn't. It was Son. Was it Son? Delhi crossed it. He did that bit of skill, and then Delhi, and then was it Son that got a little header and it fell to Aurier?
I think it was. Yeah. But yeah, it was. And then there was a few other like brilliant things that he did, like you mentioned the roulette. There was one ball that he played over to Sonny over the top, which was ridiculous. That he nearly got on the end of. That very similar to the one against Newcastle that he played in for Richarlison. His technique is unbelievable, Porro. Like really, such a good player. I don't know what it is. Like I don't know. I just think it's over the last few weeks, and again, I think it's just symptomatic of the kind of the team. Really, we're just not quite seeing the same from him. Maybe a Doggy a little bit similar as well. Although I think a Doggy's performances recently have been a little bit more consistent. Although he got caught out for the goal yesterday and did some things that were a bit sloppy. It's maybe. I think it's more of a frustration with Porro that we know the quality he has got in and around the box. I thought against West Ham he was dawdling on things a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm being harsh. I just didn't think he was amazing. I just didn't think he was. I didn't think he was great. I think he had a poor first half. He struggled a couple of times up against Werner and Hudson-Odoi down that side. But again, we know about his defensive, I don't want to say deficiencies because it's not that, but we know that's not his best asset is his defending sometimes, even though he's significantly improved on that this season for sure. But yeah, maybe it's being harsh. But I think one thing I was thinking about, like outside of Porro, and I think people may be finding things to pick at, and maybe I was guilty of that with the Porro performance, to be fair. But I think, I said this morning, like, I think if Spurs had made that performance, or Spurs had won that game in that run of the first 10, I don't think anybody would be saying anything negative about that. Maybe other than the goal. But we were giving chances away in the first 10 games of the season that we could have been punished at. If that game came in those first 10 games, I think you'd be looking at yesterday thinking that was a really good performance because of the quality of the goals that we scored. Like the first goal as well, and we'll come on to talk about Werner, but if that's Sonny or Johnson running in to slide that ball into the goal, everybody's talking about, that's Ange ball, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Archetype. But just because it was an own goal, it doesn't get exactly the archetypal goal. For
our favourite word.
It was our favourite word, yeah. Like people are talking about that as is that, I think. Like if it's Sonny coming to tuck it in, like I really do. Like it was a really quality move. But yeah, I maybe I was being a bit harsh on Porro, but I think in terms of like the season, he's definitely been one of the best right backs in the Premier League. And I want to say the improvement that we've seen from him, but again, I think it's just confidence. Like I think you should get the right manager to get the best out of him. We know that the fullbacks are going to be left vulnerable sometimes. People are obsessed with talking about people getting in behind Porro. It's the same as Trent. Like Trent had that for such a long time, but you get to a point where you realise that what they bring to the team significantly outweighs the vulnerabilities that are then left. I think like we're a good defensive unit. Liverpool a good defensive unit. Liverpool give chances away. Tottenham give chances away. Man City give chances away. Unfortunately, the only team in the league at the moment that aren't giving any fucking chances away is Arsenal. So it's like if you're a good team, you find that balance eventually. But you know, City and Liverpool have always left themselves open. It's the way they play, and Tottenham are the same. But because it's Tottenham, our defence doesn't get looked at in the same way, and Porro certainly doesn't in terms of his defensive ability. But yeah, I thought it was a decent performance from him. But the goal definitely outweighed it for sure. But it was a lovely finish. Like I said, his technique is just ridiculous at points. Absolutely ridiculous. Such a satisfying goal. Like really fucking good goal.
Yeah. I think his defending does go under the radar, but I think you expect him to be weak in defence. So when he is, because of his frame, and also he gets doubled up on quite a bit. So Aina and Hudson-Odoi were doubling up on him in that goal where Chris Wood scores. In the back post, I think was Aina or Hudson-Odoi. It was one of them on the left flank coming in, and if Chris would have dummied that, they would have been completely free and to tap it in anyway. So I think a lot of people sort of have there's almost like a false perception of that he is quite. He can concede a lot of chances. He's quite fragile at right back. I actually don't think he is. I think a lot of these players, the fullbacks especially, with how much work they have to do, they are a bit susceptible to sort of be out of position now and again. But I think for the most part, he does it really well. He's at that back post defending quite well, and a lot of times he gets a good block in. He's brilliant, and his technical ability is up there with Trent. I don't think he's as good as Trent with his technical ability, but the passes he makes, even there was another one of those passes where he looked up, saw Son on his bike, ping one over the top, Murillo cut it out with a header, but on another day that's going over Murillo's head and Son's in for a goal. And he did it against Fulham when Richarlison come on. He did that against Fulham. Obviously it didn't really mean anything and we missed anyways, but he's a joke. He is a joke, and the passion he shows as well when he knee slided after the goal, pointed to the badge. He loves the club, and that bit of passion that he shows just means so much to the fans. He is a fan favourite, but he does go under the radar. I think he does because of how good he is. I think people sort of just trust him to do his bit when he is. But I think a lot of people expect him to be a bit suspect in defence because of his frame. You don't look at him and think that's a defender or what a right back. You're going to think, oh, he can be got at, and I think a lot of teams do, but they're quite stunned by actually how he holds his own, because he does hold his own. But yeah, I was impressed with him yesterday. He's definitely shown better performances, but the fact that he got a goal and he was in that right place at the right time and the finish was incredible is a testament to sort of his role in this squad and how important he is to us. But where would you rank him then for right backs in the league at the moment?
I mean, I think he's right up there. For me, like in terms of this season, people are always going about Reece James, but the best ability is availability, and Reece James is never fit. So you can't put Reece James in that discussion. Obviously, Trent is not fit at the moment, but I think it's him, Trent, or Ben White. Unfortunately, I think have been the best. I think Ben White does something completely different for Arsenal. They've kind of gone with the whole fucking boring three centre backs across the back four, like kind of thing, and it's fucking boring. They're going to bore their way to the league title if they win it. Let's play exciting football. What happened to that? What happened to the Arsenal way? You know, what happened to that?
Out. That's what Flav
sexy
says.
Free-flowing football.
Exactly. Stink the place out.
Week after week. would like to not concede a goal like that, though, to be fair. But Porro, interestingly, something I want to pick up on something you said there about his passion, because like you said, what often has been criticised of him is his defensive ability. But actually, I think a lot of the time, like, people will talk, like, because of like football Twitter now, people will label kind of these players as like passion merchants or whatever when they show an ounce of like wanting to kiss the badge or all this kind of crap. He obviously knows that he has a bit of a vulnerability defensively sometimes. He played as a wing back at Sporting Lisbon. He was bought as a wing back for Spurs. He's now been asked to do something completely different. His defending has improved massively. His one-on-one defending especially has improved a lot this year, I think. But I think that commitment that he shows constantly, like you said, it's not just when he scores a goal. It's not just when we score. He's got a smile on his face. Like, he can tell how much he loves it. But his commitment to defending is actually really impressive with Porro. Like, really, really impressive. Even if he does the wrong thing, or like, say if we're caught open. I remember the Man City Cup game. There was a couple of blocks that he made in that game in the first half. He just wants to get there. He wants to do it. Like, he does, and quite often sometimes players don't have that mentality to like, oh, this isn't working for me. The system isn't working for me, so I'm not going to show that. He shows that defensive commitment game after game after game. So I think it's very harsh to sit there and criticise his defensive ability, but he can get, the modern way of playing like with these kind of inverted fullbacks is always going to leave people exposed. And but that's why it's great that he shows that commitment, and his one-on-one defensive abilities improved a lot. So I'm always regularly impressed with him. But maybe it's just that he was showing such a level that maybe we're not just quite seeing that. And I think it's kind of with Spurs, like, that's why the conversations become more extreme, because we got a little bit carried away when actually, like, we've sunk to it. Not I say sunk because that makes it feel negative, but we've got to a medium now. Like, I think this is Spurs. Like, this is what we are. But those first 10 games is what we could be on our day, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's a good point to make.
I think Porro is a good example of that. That these players are getting criticised for maybe not being at that level, but actually maybe we've just, and it's not a bad thing, because the level that we are seeing, we're the 4th best team in the league. But we've found that level now, and then it's about kicking on from that next season. So I think these players will continue to improve with the coaching, again, the squad with the right recruitment, etc. So everything points to going in the right direction. I think Porro will be a big part of that.
Yeah, 100%. And the hardest part is like getting an understudy to Porro because of how important he is to this team. And yeah, what you said about his performance levels were so good earlier this season that when there's the slightest drop off, possibly, it's noticeable, because you're talking about he didn't really put a foot wrong in those first 10 games. Even with the Chelsea game, he was one of the players that stood out. Remember when he got fouled near the corner flag and he looked at the fans? Did that, and like, you could just be like, oh my god, we found another gem, because he knows what it's like to play for Spurs, and he gets it. When Matip scored that incredible own goal against Liverpool, everyone was taking a piss, saying he went and got his shirt and looked and tried to get his name across, but he didn't. He was getting the badge in, pointed to the badge, which is incredible. Like, he's another young player. He's going to get better, and you can see the commitment he has. Get the badge in, and and yeah, but that's the thing. His commitment to and improvement to defending, even when he was thinking, quotes, I can't remember exactly, but the point of the quote was, when he come to the Prem, he didn't realise how quick the Prem was going to be when you're defending, how difficult it is. So he was dedicated to improving. So if he's got that mindset, he's going to keep on improving, and his trajectory is going to be another player where I think the sky's the limit. I don't think he is a limited player with his defending. I think the improvement he's made in one season, think about the improvement he can make overall in 5 years. And also, when we had Kyle Walker, he was another player that was quite suspect and he was a bit of a scapegoat. He was quite suspect in defensive areas and his positioning, and he was one of those players that fans would be in, look, he's brilliant, but he's a bit weak in defence. He's one of the best defending right backs in the world, and he has been for the last 5 years under Pep Guardiola. Like, there's been a switch, so it's something he can improve on, Porro, and I can see certain similarities with that with Walker at Spurs and Porro at Spurs. Another player that was silently not amazing. Okay, that might be a bit over exaggerating, but he was like quietly good and effective was Timo Werner. and I'm one to. I've obviously spoken out that I don't think we should sign him on a permanent. I've done a full 360 on that. Sign him up because I think he's brilliant. Like, he is limited, and he's probably not going to get any better than this. But he's a key facet to our attack, and he's Ange loves him. You could tell he plays every single game. Ange loves him and what he brings to the attack, and the numbers he's producing in such a short amount of time is it shouts volumes. So I actually think we need to sign him for 15 mil. That's such a bargain for a player of his quality. What do you think?
Yeah.
And do you think he, at the end of the game, or at the end of his performance, he come off with James Madison? Everyone gave him a standing ovation. I think there's a slow turnaround now to the appreciation fans are showing to him. I think they're warming up to the idea of us signing him permanently. One, do you think, like, how do you feel about that? And did you like his performance? What did you take from his performance?
I think he's been really effective, like so effective. Like, oh, he just yawned then. Sorry, for anyone watching, my dog has decided to enter the room and he's making his first appearance of daring and doing. And I actually really rate Timo Werner, don't you, mate? And he's a Portugal, but he's German, so he would know. You know,
get him a little Werner kit.
Yeah, I might do, actually. To be fair, a little Werner. He's quick. To be fair, he's quick like Werner.
You got end product.
Yeah, yeah. Questionable at times. At times, it's questionable. He's being loud. Why are you trying to get involved, mate? Aren't you? No, Werner was good. I thought Werner was really effective. It's interesting how people perceive it, because, like, I don't sit with my old man at Spurs. Like, our season tickets are on opposite sides of the ground, and I'm quite glad sometimes, because some of the stuff that he comes out with, I'm just like, if I had to sit next to him at all the games, and he doesn't listen to this either, so I'm fine saying this. Even if he did, I don't give a shit. I walked round and I spoke to him. I was like, I thought Werner was good today. He was like, nah, shouldn't sign him. I don't think he's good enough. And I was just like, I don't get that. I don't get, like, and I put a TikTok out this morning of, like, 5 things we learned from the game against Forest. And in one of them was that I think this Werner and Johnson combination, I think, is the way forward in the next 7 games for Spurs. I really do. I think they're both so effective. Again, if it wasn't for a good point blank save from Sells, we would have seen another Werner Johnson goal, very similar to what we saw against West Ham. Johnson, again, just sometimes in those positions. To be fair, Johnson did everything right. He tried to open up his body. It's just that he didn't have the room to guide it into the goal. But again, it's so encouraging that Werner is just like, that's what he wants to do. Get there, pull back the cross. He's very impressive with his left foot, like really, really good with his left foot in terms of delivering the ball into the box. And Johnson just making that run. Again, we could have had another goal from it yesterday. And like I said earlier, like, if that goal wasn't an own goal and it's Sonny sweeping that in, we're all talking about that as like a really well-worked move. And it was. And part of that was Werner, because anytime he gets into those positions, you feel like Spurs could score. And I don't think many people would have thought that about Werner, like, coming up. And I do think the preconceptions around him before he came and the Chelsea thing and how he didn't perform there are still doing him a little bit of a disservice.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I do think that, and I think if you just take all that away and just analyse these performances for what they are, 5 goal contributions now in 11 games in the Premier League. Although I thought it was more. I was looking at
the own goals, isn't it?
I know, but like that. Surely that's an assist, though, isn't it? Yesterday, is that not an assist?
I would say that is. Like, what could Murillo actually do there?
I know, that's it. And the fact that he's caused, like, that own goal, and there's been a couple of other ones now, or maybe I'm maybe dreaming that, shows that even if our striker ain't going to get on the end of it, he's causing problems. He's causing big problems. And I think he totally deserves the standing ovation that he got yesterday. I think he deserves that appreciation. You can tell that he loves being here. I know he's angling for that move, obviously, because that bit of security, but every interview he does, he talks about how much he loves the club and, you know, talking about being best friends with Mickey van der Ven and all this kind of stuff. Like, I think he's such a good character to have around. Like, he's that little bit older as well. He's got that experience. The guy's won a Champions League. Like, he's not an idiot. Like, he's a good player. And I think for £15 million, I think people get too caught up sometimes in this perceived lack of ambition for Spurs, right? When you're talking about signing Timo Werner as a no-brainer for £15 million. Nobody is saying Timo Werner is the answer, but he helps solve the problem. And Spurs still need to go out and probably get another winger or someone who can play in that position that offers something slightly different. But for the system he wants to play, just like Johnson, they are both so effective. And I think that now that until Richarlison is fully fit, and maybe you could switch it up in certain games with having Richie as the focal point, I think that's the way forward. I do.
Yeah,
I really do.
So.
I've been loving Werner. I don't think he gets the respect and the flowers that he deserves necessarily.
Yeah, I think the problem Spurs have kind of got is that it's quite unorthodox from a fan point of view to see a club sign the squad player before the main starter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
but it's January.
Exactly.
It's in January.
Exactly.
Like, that happens all the time.
Like, yeah. And it is such a smart signing. And if we want to be, I'll spin this because a lot of people would say, yeah, lack of ambition. Yeah, get a 15 mil Timo Werner over signing 2 world-class wingers. If you want to be at the levels of City, Arsenal, etc., it's your squad that makes the difference. It's the players that aren't playing that, and they say it on the overlap all the fucking time because they got so many Man United legends coming on. It's the United podcast, isn't it? But a lot of what they say is true. Like when Solskjaer come on and they're talking about the players that make up the squad that aren't starting week in, week out, that when they come on, give it their all. They have that mindset of, okay, I'm going to still train the hardest. I'm still going to play the hardest. I'm going to, I've got a point to prove every time I come on, and I'm not going to kick up a fuss and distract the team. He's the perfect character in a dressing room to get behind the team, and as he's a team player. And he'd be a brilliant signing because he's another one of those players that every time he plays, he's effective one way or the other, or he's involved one way or the other. And his work rate is excellent. I thought Johnson and Werner were brilliant at tracking back yesterday. I thought they kept getting back and stopping the overlap, because Forest did have an overlap constantly. They kept doubling up on Porro and Udogie, and even Son actually tracked back a couple of times. Won a ball back for Spurs. But yeah, that's brilliant. I think there's a part of him that's definitely trying to win all the fans over, because he's on a limited time to get that permanent move. But if we can sign him and he becomes a squad player, that's an excellent squad player to have, because he's such an incredible character, such a lovable person. And if he feels loved, he'll want to stick around for ages, even if he's not playing week in, week out. He's a perfect player to have if you want to be a successful team. He's another systematic player. If you saw him in another team, you'd probably think he was shite, but he just suits what Ange wants for a winger perfectly. So direct, gets the ball, running at the fullback straight away. He almost doesn't really know what he's doing. He's instinctive, but that's good in a way, because the fullback doesn't know. If you don't know what to do, the fullback's not going to know. And a lot of the time, and I think it's drilled into him now, get to the byline. Now and again, he'll switch it up and cut inside, and that takes that surprises the defender. Because they're constantly thinking he's getting to the byline. But every time he does it, that turn of pace is quite unstoppable. There's only a handful of defenders or fullbacks in the league that can actually stop that turn of pace, because he'll just put it on and then he whips it. And the balls he delivers into the box, similar to Brennan Johnson, are so effective because they're drilled low crosses, whipped them across. More than 50% of the time, that's ricocheting off a defender, going somewhere, possibly the goal, or being tapped in, which it has been so far. So I'm really impressed with him, and I've done a U-turn. I think he'll be a brilliant squad signing for 15 mil. That's nothing. That's pennies in this day and age, and we don't have to worry about that. We can get rid of the Solomons. Do you know what I mean? If we get Werner for 15 mil, they're probably going to cost the same amount of money anyways. If we sell Solomon or Gil, that's 15 mil for Werner. Bang. Do you know what I mean? So I think we need to do it. But we're back in the top 4, and it's a bit of fun now looking at sort of what exactly we need to sign. We got a question on Instagram from Ernie saying that, like, what positions do we need to go out for? We need to be looking for in the summer. How far away are we from that top 3 that are ahead of us, in that title challenge? Because I don't think we're miles off. I think we are a fair bit behind, but that's a given because we're in the first season. But to think how much disarray we were in this point last season. Stellini was the manager. And it being 1 year, the turnaround, it speaks volumes on how much Ange has actually done and the trajectory we're going. We've hit such a trajectory at such a pace that where can we be in a year, 2 years with the signings we've made? But it was a good question from Moni, because it's about squad positions. What will it take for us to reach that level?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a few obvious areas that need kind of addressing. Sorry, was that boring you, Dexter?
Was that a fart or
yeah.
was that your dog?
No, it was he just let out a yawn. It sounded like a fart, didn't it? I can just get away with anything and just blame it on him now. Now
Yeah,
he's sitting
that was a dog.
there.
That was a dog.
Yeah, that was dog's a nightmare. I was conscious of just like because I was sitting here stroking him, like my arm must look so dodgy. If I'm giving him like a little scratch like that, it just looks like what is he doing? It's like why is the desk moving like that? No, but yeah, I think I think we're a few years away. I do think we're a few years away. Ange and Madison, I saw this morning, both coming out and sort of like we want to be aiming for like a title chase next season, which I think we can do. I think we're capable of that. Again, like you look at this season, if things were slightly different, we could still be in that hunt, for sure. But I think in terms of like regularly competing, like Arsenal, the stage kind of Arsenal got themselves to, I think, we've spoken about number 6 quite a lot, and I think we've spoken about that kind of dynamic winger. But like you said, it's about having that squad depth, like you relate back to Timo Werner, like quality in all those kind of positions, and players that can be very effective in the system, that even if they come out, they're so ingrained in what they're being asked to do. And especially for Werner, like someone who's clearly struggled with confidence over the last few years, been shot to bits being at Chelsea and then kind of coming here and then being doubted from the start. But like, if you simplify the game and make it about the system, Werner can be so effective. And it's about having players like that in all those kind of different positions to be able to come and have that depth. So depth is another one that we need to kind of definitely improve on for sure. But I think we've shown we have got strength in depth already. But I think it's just about taking it to that next level to be on that regularity in terms of competing. But I think, again, it's just we'll come back to that stuff, whether it's a new striker, whether it's another direct 1v1 winger, whether it's a number 6. I think all those kind of positions do need sort of looking at for sure. And then able deputies for the fullbacks as well, and maybe another centre half. But we're not far away. But I think top 4 now is like that's where we're at. I do think that's where we're at for now. Maybe that's where we'll be at next season as well. Maybe it'll take a couple of years to get to that point of competing for a title. Like Arsenal went from 5th to 2nd. Maybe we could do that next year. They did that last season. Maybe why couldn't we be looking at doing that as well? So it's exciting times ahead. You don't want to put too much pressure on it, but I do genuinely think like with some of the players that we've been talking about in terms of their individual potential, in terms of the sky being the limit, I think that's very much reflective of what Ange can achieve with this team for sure.
Yeah, I think I agree. I agree with everything he said. I think it's a challenging window, this, because we're probably going to get rid of. I think we're going to sort of churn out some players that are squad players at the moment, but probably aren't cutting it. I'm thinking the Brian Hills, the Sessegnons. I don't know I don't know where Solomon is. But like those types of players, Højbjerg's probably going to be on the move. What are we going to do with Lo Celso, who again had a really good cameo? But again, what are we going to do because he's on his last year? But it's the players that we bring in. I can't see us going out and signing 7 players because I'm thinking this is what I'm thinking: backup left centre back, 2 fullbacks either side for backups or competition, number 6, a winger, and a striker. I do think I am leaning towards getting a striker and a big sort of target man striker.
Yeah, me too.
And then obviously Werner as well. That's what 6 or 7 players that I just don't think we're not going to do that because that's a lot of money. I think what our plan is, young versatile players that can come in and do a shift and be that sort of backup that doesn't kick up a fuss. They're hard to find on the market, but we're capable of finding those types of players, and it will probably be players we've never heard of in our lives before. It will probably be
Exactly.
It will probably be a player, but which isn't a bad thing. I think a lot of the fan base is sort of they're coming around to the idea of that because of the Van der Vens that we signed, because of the Vicarios. But it will have to be someone that can play centre back and left back, someone that can play holding mid and maybe fullback. Do you know what I mean? It'll be ridiculous, but I think we do need that big striker, and I think we do need that tricky winger, and they'll be the most expensive, and the number 6 will be probably quite expensive. So I'm thinking maybe 2 to 3 big statement signings, and then the versatile sort of cover positions that we need to strengthen in. And that's why I think. I mean, I want it to happen because I've convinced myself it should, but I don't think number 10 is like vital up on the list that we need because Madison's there, and then Kulusevski, Lo Celso. It just depends on the movement around that position. But there was a question about James Madison. It was from Spurs G on Twitter. He said, "In my opinion, Madison has been quite underwhelming since his return from injury. He stopped playing these incisive passes and takes too many touches. Is this a management issue, or does Madders have to sit down for a game?" What are your thoughts on Madison's performance and his form since come back from injury?
Yeah, I was disappointed with Madison yesterday. I think in the first 10, 15 minutes of the game, I think he was really bright, wanted to impact it. But I think maybe this is just me, but I spoke to a few of the guys around me at the ground as well, thinking about this. It's like, one of my bugbears about Madison is that sometimes I think he tries to make it, the importance is too much maybe on it looking good rather than being effective. I think he's a player that's kind of, I don't know,
Feeds
like
off
a
the
lot
crowd.
and a lot about the aesthetics as well. Like, I've spoken about my bugbear before about the outside of the foot passing rather than using his left foot a lot of the time, which quite often is to our detriment. Sometimes it works, but I don't know what's going wrong with Madison at the moment. You can tell there's a frustration from within him. You can tell he really wanted to impact the game yesterday. It's not that he's not trying at all. Things just aren't coming off for him. And I thought yesterday would be the game for him to really kind of grab the game by the scruff of the neck. But maybe it is a game on the bench. Maybe it's not. Who knows? I'm just not. I'm just not sure. I think it's got to the point now where he's been back long enough where I don't think it should be a fitness thing. I'm confused. I'm just a little bit. I'm a little bit confused about it, to be honest. I don't know how you feel. I don't know what to think about Madison right now.
Yeah, I think don't expect too much of him until the end of the season, which no one likes to hear that. But I think he's another one of a bit similar to Bentancur, maybe after that pre-season, that little rest. Obviously, he's going to the Euros, but how much will he like partake in starting every game? But I mean, I just think next season he'll be back to sort of that the way he was performing at the beginning of the season, because he was outstanding. Like, the levels he was performing in, and the swagger, the confidence. We hadn't even actually seen that at even Leicester. Like Leicester, we knew he was a great player, but I think he turned it up a notch. When he signed for Spurs, you could see he had that big move. He got that big move, and he sort of reveled in that sort of pressure, and he was brilliant. And I think he's spoken out about his injury, saying that it was that it's the worst injury he's ever had. And you can see, I don't think he trusts his body as much. It's the little things. He probably dwells on the ball a little bit too much, which, if he trusts his body, maybe he doesn't do that. I think he was taking a bit. I agree with Spurs G, where he said that he was taking too many touches. He was on the ball a bit too long. Whereas when Lo Celso come on, he was doing the opposite. It was a couple of touches and the tempo changed, and it looked a lot more aesthetically pleasing when we were in possession, and which is an argument to why we should probably keep Lo Celso, because he had something different, but he still has that sort of creativity. It's just, if you're not fit, you're not it, like you're saying earlier. But Madison, I think he'll get back to his best. It's just the standards that he set. It's hard to get back to that level when you're recovering from a big injury. And I think we just got to be patient. I don't think anyone wants to hear that, because I think he even said, "I'll be back to the levels I was," because he's a confident lad. He said, "I'll be back to the levels I was in no time." Yeah, it's proven the opposite, because there's weaknesses to his game. There's to his game, and there's frustrations to his games that are sort of stain that he's been showing in the last couple months since he's been back from injury. But yeah, I think he just needs a little break. I think the summer will be that bit of break, and he'll be back playing at the levels he was at the beginning of the season. So I don't think it's too much to worry about. But maybe you do rest him. Maybe you take him out of the team. Give Kulusevski, who's struggling for form, a bit of confidence, and play him in the middle, or play Lo Celso if he's fit, because Lo Celso was positive. So it's a tricky one, but
especially with Kulusevski as well. Like, he's chomping at the bit to play in there. Like, he might be struggling for confidence, and we saw that again a little bit yesterday. Again, a lot of negativity around Kulusevski for a 10-minute cameo where he gave the ball away a couple of times. Yeah. It's just like,
how's he ever going to cope?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. And again, but yeah, like I said, you've got a player chomping at the bit to play in that position. So maybe it's the right thing to do. Just give Madison, say, look, Newcastle will take you out, but Arsenal, you're going to be back, and I want a performance against Arsenal. Because like we said before, I think we said this last week, because we both predicted Madison to have a big game yesterday. And we know that he steps up in these big games. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can kind of do in the run-in.
Yeah.
Then I think you can start asking questions after that if there's no real uptick in performance.
Yeah, he does thrive in big games, and there's parts of the game yesterday that he was really he was promising. Obviously he had a big influence on the Porro goal, and he started the game with a bit of swagger. I think he just had a bit of is it to and fro? Is that the saying? That he had a little something with Ryan Yates, and it might have thrown him off the game. Yates was doing his best job at being a bellend and winding him up, and it worked because after that start, he started to just sort of like his performance exacerbated a little bit, and you could see he sort of lost that sort of flow until he come off. So hopefully he gets back to his bets, and I think he will. But so we've got time for today. Ben, you're a legend as always. Everyone, thank you so much for your contribution to the podcast. The questions were excellent, and again, we're going to save some of the questions for next week because some of the questions were really, really good. But thank you so much so far for the support. Please let us know what you think in the comments. What you're thinking about the podcast, and we're open to sort of opinions on where you'd like to see this podcast go, what discussions you'd like to see us have, and we'll do it. But thank you so much, Ben. Where can we find Daring and Doing on social media and yourself on social media? Ben, I think you're muted.
I'm back. Sorry, I'm muted because my dog I thought my dog was going to start barking, and then it came up saying, "Oh, you can't mute you can't mute." Anyway, since he came in the room, this has been all over the place from my side. So I apologise for that. But no, yeah, you Spotify, Apple, leave a review on there as well. Let us know what you're thinking. You can leave reviews on Spotify. You can set us to automatic download on there as well, so you don't have to miss any episode. There's going to be a lot of episodes coming up with a big run in. And we're going to got some other special stuff planned, especially as Spurs are on a little 2-week break again after the Newcastle game. But don't fear, we've got you covered with that. TikTok as well. We're only a few followers away from being able to go live on there as well. So if everyone could head over there and give us a follow.
Yeah, that'd be unreal.
Instagram as well, and obviously subscribe on YouTube as well, which will be massive for us. It helps us out more than you would ever understand. That was dramatic. And then myself, Ben Bowman on TikTok, Twitter as well, and then I keep saying it, YouTube coming soon, but it will come soon. But I don't know when. But just get off my back, all right? Just stay patient. No one is asking. This is a YouTube channel that nobody is asking for.
Now I'm looking forward to it. It'll be unreal. It'll be really, really good.
Nice one, mate.
Legend. Thanks so much.
Yeah, again, thank you for all the support as well on the podcast. Sorry, I was just going to say what you just said, but it's been quality. So any feedback and just reviews and stuff are really, really important for us. So go and just go and do that if you've got 3-5 minutes. That'd be nice.
Good. Legends, up the Spurs. Really, really important 3 points. We're onto a busy schedule now and a tough run of fixtures. So we'll be back later this week with the Newcastle preview. Up the Spurs.
Up the Spurs.